What's up with the people? Welcome to episode 9 of the Warhouse. I'm going to start this episode with a prayer. But first, we're going to start with the preface to this prayer. It's from a book called Collection of Selected Prayers. And we're just going to open it with a prayer. Why? Because I feel like doing that. I'll explain further later the reasons for why I do certain things. For some people, I don't need to explain. I'm sure it makes sense. However, because of what we're discussing, because of the topic of conversation, it's my choice to open this particular episode with a prayer. So it says, prayer to distance negative spirits. It says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but the inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside may be clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like the whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead men's bones and uncleanliness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous. That was the preface. The prayer says, in the name of God Almighty, may the negative spirits be distanced from this union, and may enlightened spirits replace them and assist us in the battle against them. Negative spirits who inspire bad thoughts, treason, and lies in the mind of God's people, who give credit to foolery and abuse. I refute you with all my strength and close my ears to your suggestions. Above all, I desire that God grant you his mercy. Enlightened spirits who God has assigned to assist me, grant me the strength to resist the influence of the negative spirits and the necessary light, so that I do not become the object of their perverse intentions. Protect me from pride and presumption. Distance from my heart jealousy and hate and malevolence and all sentiments contrary to a charitable existence, because there are so many other doors open to negative energy. Now, that's an important prayer. It does not close with amen, so there's no need for me to add it. And then I know that somewhere there'll be a woman that says, "Our woman," right? That's kind of the world we live in right now. So diametric opposition is something that we all face down at one point in our lives, or at some point in our lives, quite often, usually. So today's discussion is on candle work, shadow work, and satanic magic. Now, why would I choose to string those particular topics together? The reason is because they are related. Now, I'm not a person that goes out of my way to, how would I say it? I'm not a person that goes out of my way to demonize anyone or anything. However, I also know that demons are real, they exist, they have been identified throughout history thousands of ways, and have also been tied to governments, villages, societies, etc. Some people don't understand the way those things work, so I'm going to briefly explain. I'm going to briefly expound upon how these kinds of things are applicable in effect. Take the human being, for instance, or any organism that is able to think. That would be animals, that would be humans, anything that is affected by the environment or affected by experience. Human beings are simply a medium to something else. The medium that human beings are, or the canvas that human beings are, has everything to do with personalities. Another way that I like to say that is personal ET. Phonetically, that explains what a personality is perfectly for me. So, a personal ET can be defined different ways, and there are different classifications of spirits. There are different applications to spirits, and then like attracts like, or birds of a feather flock together is the same. So what you're seeing right now is that there are women's issues, and regardless to what your ideas or your personal feelings may be, there is this pressure cooker. There is peer pressure being applied to the female gender that says the certain issues are every woman's issue. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you like, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you don't agree with certain issues, you are betraying the spirit of what it means to be a woman. You can see that as well as far as that pertains to race. So right now we're seeing very clearly that there are also people, groups that are saying that certain issues are Black issues. And if you don't agree with or support certain issues, that you are going against the spirit of what it means to be Black. That's also present and persistent in certain white groups, etc., ad infinitum. Now, what does that have to do with satanic magic? If you look at the way that satanic spirits work, it's a situation where you can see that each classification of spirit has a category. So if you study demonology, you will learn very quickly, if you're astute or if you have some occult background in other areas, you can start to see that certain spirits or certain what would be considered genius or what would be considered loci or what would be considered demons have constants or have these traits that are consistent within each legion or within each division. What makes this difficult, I see you, Portia, what's up? What makes this difficult is, in order to stay safe, people who belong to certain spiritual realms have to normalize certain things. Whether those things are good or bad, in order to keep the spirit of whatever it might be, the oversoul of whatever it might be, alive, there has to be a normalization process. And then certain behaviors have to not only become acceptable, but have to become something that a person is able to worship, whether that is within themselves or outside of themselves. So I'm going to start right now just because I feel like, I don't know, putting the ladies first today. But I'm going to say that Lilith, Ishtar is a spirit that we're dealing with presently. Kali is a spirit that we're dealing with presently that is difficult to maintain. It's a beast that is difficult to tame for 1,000 reasons. It's also a spirit that has to be normalized in order for certain groups of people to be able to operate. to be able to move around in society. Why is that? Because as I've explained before, what we're dealing with is absolutely spiritual warfare. It's spiritual war. So in the classification of the spirits or the legions that are under the control of Lily or Lilith, there would be other spirits that would be more of an individualized type within a class or within a category. So we start to see spirits like Jezebel, Angrat Batmalat, right? That one sounds funny. But there are these different levels of these spirits. And in order for them to have influence, they have to have a following. So it's not as simple as taking a statue and saying, this is Kanda Rosana, or this is Pambagira, right? Although these are manifestations of Lilith or of what would be considered the spirit of harlotry or a spirit of confusion, deceit, gossip, slander, it goes further into things by then pointing out specificities as that pertains to attributes. So when you're dealing with a society that relies on prostitution, or when you're dealing with a society where there are these gossip columns, there are these gossip magazines, there are people who become millionaires, and the reason that they're millionaires is because they are in the business of gossip. That in turn normalizes gossiping, and it makes it seem that that is something that could be beneficial or something that could be profitable. It's something that's entertaining. It's something that people enjoy. The same with sex, the same with war, right? Fighting, the thrill of victory. These are things that become an incentive for certain behavior. So some people know that in certain activities, the best way to reinforce certain behaviors is through a reward system. There is reward-based incentive, and then there's punishment-based incentive. So the two ways that are available to get someone to then appreciate certain behaviors or to normalize them, for those behaviors to become standard, is a reward system or a punishment system. So it's you don't do that again because you don't want to go through what it is that we're going to make happen to you in order to keep people from doing certain things. Now, the reward system is something that overrides the punishment system. So if you know that the chances of there being a big reward outweigh the chances of there being this grand punishment, or even if there is a slight possibility that you will have this glory, this reward, this treasure, this light at the end of a tunnel, if you know that that is even a possibility, you may take the chance, you may take the risk, even though the punishment or the obstacles in the way could be devastating. Even further into that comes the part where facing those things and succeeding adds clout to the situation. So there are people who will even face down tremendous dangers because they know that at the end of the experience, those dangers will become part of the story. And they can say, yeah, you know, I persevered. I made it past those things. That's kind of the thing that happens when someone's in a high-speed chase. Some people might think like, you're not getting away. They got a helicopter, 10 cars on you. There's no way you're getting away. However, they continue a chase in order to amp the situation up. That's probably for later on, so that when they do end up wherever they end up, they can say, yeah, I did that, right? I kept running. I never gave up. I did that. Did you see it? This kind of thing. And that becomes a part of an egotistical situation. Now, what does this have to do with shadow work and satanic magic? In the realm of Satanism, there are certain effects that are common, that are standard. That's just the way things are. So some people will feel that anything that is aside from a pious existence or aside from a meek and humble existence where people just live their lives, mind their business, make the attempt to be righteous in everything they do, regardless to the personality profiles of the people around them, that those people will receive a reward. It is a reward system that we're discussing. And for some people, that's an all right existence. However, you're also dealing with the pressures of personality or other personalities. You're dealing with peer pressure. You're going to be dealing with those people who want to make things certain ways or who want to normalize certain things, whether that is racism or to put up with racism, whether that is to get up and go to work every single day because you need to pay your bills, and not as simple as you need to pay your bills, but you need a fly sweater like this one, or you need Jordans or whatever it might be, when actually you don't need those things. But in your mind, you've been conditioned. We start to become conditioned to believe that we have to perpetuate a certain thing in order to achieve our goals, whatever those goals might be. If you start to wear clothing that is affordable, the television, and then you watch television, you're going to get hit with all of these shirts that cost $10,000 or this kind of thing, right? You're going to start to see these automobiles. It's a constant strive for better. It's like, but you don't have this yet. You want to be comfortable. You want to chill. You don't want to participate in certain things, but you don't have this yet. And you could get it if only you can figure out a way to transfer the funds from someone else's pocketbook to your own. Spirituality is a tough nut, and it's difficult for 1,000 different reasons. But one of those reasons is anywhere that people go, especially people who are considered to be gullible, there will always be predatory minds in tow. This is why there is a need to guard children. This is why there is a need to guard schools. This is why there is a need to guard any situation where there could be people who are less likely to be able to defend themselves against a predatory measure. And predatory measures tend to have everything to do with resources. The human organism, that's just the way things work for them. So a society that has control of resources can then turn and look at every other society, whether that is a village, whether that is a township, whether that is a city. Whoever is in control of the resources can then make demands and even in regards to tribute to these other societies, no matter how different they might be, no matter what their beliefs might be. You can see that even in, different aspects of criminal activity like sex trafficking or drug dealing. or let me think what else. Even the video game streamers, you can see it in everything. It's a monkey see, monkey do. We have to normalize it. We have to make it popular. We have to popularize this. So then we have influence and we can make the attempt to control it, because that's what other people are doing. So you can see right now that because so many people are spiritual or moving in this spiritual fashion, that industries started to bum rush that area. All of a sudden, it went from a situation where some people are like, yeah, they have their rituals, it's this Illuminati thing, whatever it might be, which that's interesting. You have to study it to even understand that kind of stuff. However, I keep seeing different things. Like I remember the first time I saw on Loving Hip Hop, the girl, the lesbian girl from The Wire, I guess she goes by the name Snoop. I saw her wearing a leg case. And I started thinking to myself, like, all right, well, the camera zoomed in on the molecules right now. So that was a subliminal imprint. That was a subliminal message. The same as I remember when people were talking about Usher having a leg case, right? It's the same thing as right now. No matter where you go on Facebook, they're going to force into your timeline an image of Kobe Bryant. Which is interesting because obviously there's money to be made. So when I went into a video game store, this is a funny thing. I just went in there to have a look. And at the front of the display were these NBA video games lined up. This store put, I'm sure it was every game that you could possibly pick Kobe Bryant in that game was lined up in the front of this display. Like, you can't not notice it, right? And that is to capitalize on this thing that's trending on the internet, which is that this dude died, that Kobe Bryant died. And to me, that wasn't like it. That didn't sit right with me. It didn't make me more interested in buying these games that I normally wouldn't even look at. I tend not to play video games, so I doubly was not very interested. But however, it was something that I noticed, and it didn't sit right with me. That is something that is it's opportunistic. And some people will make you to believe that opportunities are the best thing in the world. However, opportunism can become predatory, as well as it can become tied to a spirit that is lecherous or that is wrong in order to make the attempt to capitalize on something, which in this particular instance is the news, or what is being force fed into a news feed, whether that's through other people who can't help themselves. Because as I've explained, it's a spirit. It's we're dealing with consciousness. So when you're studying demonology or when you're studying satanic magic, a strong part of what all of that has to do with is psychology, as well as certain character traits or certain characteristics that then lead you into being dominated by a certain force. All right. So I've seen people growing up, I'm sure we've all had this experience where there was this person and they seemed to be, regular, normal, just good people. They get in with a certain crowd or they fall for a certain person who then brings them to certain areas and they lose their minds. It can even approach the point where they stop caring about the person who even showed them certain things. And they start to then care about the environment or being in the area of that they introduced them to, because of the influences, because of the group consciousness, because of the group mind. So Satanism or satanic practices, that's part of a group. It's part of a group mind. There are forces and elements that directly correlate to those practices. However, it is an umbrella. So there are subdivisions or there are sub branches, which is the way that if you look at the Kabbalistic tree of life and look at the root system, this is what I'm explaining. There are these branches. There are branches above the ground and branches below the ground. The tree itself cannot grow if the root system is also not healthy. So the one feeds the other, which is tough, right? The righteous, the people who are supposed to be righteous, cannot do what they do. They cannot prosper if there is not this other group, which is the root, the unseen, the hidden portion, the dark, the black hand of things. And they rely on one another to then bear fruit, if that's the way that I would say. Well, I just said it that way, so that is what that is. When you use candle magic, I've already explained this. You are inviting spirits, you're inviting personalities, you're inviting consciousnesses, intelligences to your personal effects, to your personal situation. When you go to a church and there are people that are praying, there are candles lit, or there are statuary around there, there's a certain vibration. The energy of the congregation, as well as the direction of the pastor or the elders, has everything to do with what it is that a person is going to focus on as a member of that church. It's the same thing with a satanic church. It's the same thing with a synagogue. It is the same thing with a mosque. You're going to start to accept certain things as absolute reality. There are certain spirits tied to the situation, and those spirits are part of classifications or divisions that have enemies. As you appropriate those spirits, their enemies become your enemies. That's the same way that a gang works. That is the same way that a company works. So let's say that you work for such and such a company. However, you know that there is this competing company. They're then going to become your adversary. You're not going to want them to win. You're going to see what you can do, even if that means you have to spy on them, even if that means you have to copy. They found this new innovative way to do things. So you have to copy that as well in order to remain in the business. However, you still are going to belong to this category or this classification, which would be whatever business it is that you're in. Whether that's a lawyer, whether that is a teacher, whether that is a burger flipper. When burger flipping issues come up, you're going to go to the march. When we need 15 an hour, it's exactly the way that I explained things. You become part of this pressurized situation that then affects you based on numbers. We need more people. The only way we're going to be able to get what we want or to be able to get this done is to have more of us, and that is spiritual. So back to the portion of things that is dealing with satanic magic as well as shadow work. So there are groups of people that know and that feel religiously that prostitution and harlotry is tied to a specific classification of spirits. The need and the urge to want to get out there even when you have a husband and show your ass is tied to a specific group of spirits, a specific group of behaviors. And there are people who believe religiously, without any question at all, that people can be possessed, that there are other personalities and other spirits, some of them ancient, that can tie themselves to your body the same way as a genie situation works, or the same way as, for example, if you take the bottle has a mouth, it has an opening, and then it has a body. They tend to point to the stomach and say that that's the place where these spirits reside. However, they can also take over your mind. This is relatable to the idea of the czar or the bazaar, as that pertains to, as I've explained, what a genie would be in mythology. So it's a spirit that dwells inside of another object. Now, the problem is that people automatically assume that the spirit that dwells in this object, that the object has to be inanimate, or, like a house. So if you live in a house or an apartment, you are a spirit that dwells inside of a place. That's the same way that spirits take residence inside the body. And then human beings are already strange creatures. It's something of a blank slate that then, or a clean slate, a dry erase board that has nothing written on it. And then people start to write things. And that becomes your character, or that becomes who you are. If you take this blank canvas and you start to decorate it, some people are going to have more exciting canvases than others. Some people are going to have more dynamic canvases than others. However, that would be a relatable representation as to what a personality is, as well as what a personality is made of. Then there are the people who will do anything to be part of something, or will do anything to copy people. You can see an example of this behavior, of this personality that I'm bringing forward, in one of those Lord of the Rings movies. Actually, let me think about it. That would be 300, I think. Yeah. So 300. You can see that personality. You can see this creature that is chasing the precious, right? You can see this creature that it just wants to wear the uniform. It just wants to get pat on its head. It just wants to be part of something. And a whole civilization, in theory, right, in this movie, fictitiously, however, factitiously, an entire civilization fell based on the desire of this one undeveloped creature in the example that I'm bringing forward. And that's what human beings are dealing with everywhere in the world. No one is safe from that. Husbands are not safe from that. Wives are not safe from that. Kids are not safe from that. Because everywhere you look, there will be some person who is going to make the attempt to direct that energy. If a person doesn't fit in with a certain group, that can then leave them open to the influence of another group. That's what we're seeing in Christianity. So some people have grown up in Christian systems that they did not understand. They did not explain it because they're taking advantage of people. They're trying to control the hierarchy. They're trying to control the way that the divisions work within the church. And as such, people leave the church, which leaves them open to these other influences, which then in turn can strengthen the church, because they'll say, see, this person, they then have something to talk about. They say, see, this person is outside of the fold of God. This person is, sometimes they let that stuff happen. They don't care. As an example, right? To set an example. You see what happened to that person when they left us. You see how things went terrible for them. You see what now we need to give support to Annie Jo Beth because she's suffering. Because no matter what, we're right. Gangs working that way. As soon as I started feeling like I could see the similarities between being a member of a church and being a part of a gang, as well as being emboldened or tied to, emboldened by or tied to a specific business or a specific occupation. As soon as I saw the correlatives involved spiritually, as well as practically and applicably, that became a very tough situation for me personally. Because on one hand, in society, you have these groups that are trying to pound into your mind that all of these people over here need to stick together. We all need to be fighting for each other over here. But in my personal experiences, some of those people standing there look exactly like some of the people who have given me some of the worst problems I've ever had in my life. For different reasons. Usually jealousy, envy, these sorts of things. Tied to things that it's unfortunate that it works that way, but tied to these different things that the Bible lists as a problem, right? Even in a satanic capacity, even in a satanic church, as soon as you read those materials, you should know very quickly that there are going to be people who are going to be vying for every energy that you have. There could be people vying for every portion of everything that brings happiness into your life in one of those groups. And then there are the divisions. So you have the chiefs, you have the presidents, you have the dukes, you have these creatures that are at the higher level of things, and then you have the minions, you have the low level, way down there, just particles of a thing, particles of a whole. This is important when you start to study things like shells And for the people that are hip to what it is that I'm bringing forward, I don't need to go past that. They know what I mean when I say shells. And there are these different groups and these different societies, as well as the individual desire, what a person wants individually. So you might be dealing with this person who's like, I've seen it. So there might be this old, just raggedy, physically not worth nothing as person. But they'll go to another country to sleep with a young, beautiful woman. Or they'll even try to find a mail order bride, right? I'll pay you. Right? You come from this poor country, and I come from this country that has more. I'll bring you to where I'm from just so people can see me with you. Just so that it makes me look more valuable to other people. Even if they know that the only reason that you're with that person, or that the only reason that that person came back from this other country with you is because you have money. That then becomes something for them. Like, so what? It doesn't matter if people know that that woman ain't with me because I'm beautiful. I have power because I have resources, which is still power. That's the issue. They don't care, right? It doesn't matter how they have power, as long as they have power. Then other people do it. They say, shit, if he, man, I want in on that. I want a young tenderoni like that. How did you do it? Oh, I just went over here to the Philippines, or I just went over here to Thailand. I picked one from a village. I picked whichever one I wanted. Oh, all right. Well, I'm lonely. I don't like my wife. I got some money. I'll do that too. It even approaches a point where some of those people who are involved in that, I mean, they know what they're dealing with. Some of those families go out of their way to create sirens. Some of those families go out of their way to create mermaids. A maid, right? A mer, a more, a Moorish maid, right? Where's your French wand at? Where's your little maid outfit? Let's put some pumps on you. No panties. There are these people that make the attempt to control the narrative of any and everything. There are also people that will make the attempt to make you insecure so that they have something to attack. If you have no insecurities, there are people who will then try to make you insecure so they have a point to attack, because they cannot defend, or they cannot attack you any other way. That's the way some of these societies work. It's all about dependency. That will try to make you feel, oh, that's what we should do. That's the important thing. We all have to depend on one another, when that isn't very accurate. That's how families are destroyed. We all have to look out for each other and depend on each other. And no, we don't. That's just the situation. And people know that. That's the thing that really bothers me, is these people that they say, oh, it's, and then they get out the door and they can't wait for the light to change at the stoplight. They get irritated by the slightest of slights, be they purposeful or not. But when everyone else is kumbaya, kumbayaing, right? Then it becomes some shit. See, some people say kumbaya and some people say kumbia. Which one are you down with? I'm down with kumbia. I don't have to say kumbaya. Some people say, okay, well, we got kumbia too. See, we say bia, bia. However, if you haven't noticed the way that culture works, it is very tied to the word cult. There are hypnotic effects. So if I can do things in certain ways, it could be that you want to ride my wave. It's like, damn, everybody's okay. That is knocking. That's jamming right there. Okay, I gotta have that too. I gotta be able to produce that effect in other people. I gotta make other people think I'm hip, I'm cool. However, this stuff is tied to certain spirits. Now, that is the thing that the average occult practitioner should care more about. The examples that have been preserved and that are presented in these books and in these films that are absolutely scientific on a spiritual and psychological level, as well as a physical level. It's like, man, big girls ain't hip. Big girls ain't getting no love. Big girl, okay, now we got to push big girls in everybody's face. We got to normalize it. There's not enough people who like, gay issues or whatever it might be. Or we got to push that shit in everybody's face. We got to normalize it. And then when people don't agree with something, we got to point at them. That isn't right. It has to be 2,000 people that do it, though. Has to be a bunch of people that do it. So then eventually whoever it is says, oh, that isn't right. Oh, I was wrong. There are plenty of people who have even stated they don't care about what homosexuals do in their private lives. But then that becomes a thing. It's like, oh, but we want to be cool. We want to be popular. We want to be this. So we're going to put the shit in your face. We need people. We're building an economy. We're building a culture based on this. If you're not one of us, if you don't agree with us, you're not one of us, and we don't like you, and we won't be there. It's clicky. It's cliquish. This is the stuff I don't see how it is that people wake up every day and have certain discussions and can't figure this stuff out. I feel like the more that people rely on corporations, the more that people have to rely on certain businesses and certain business practices, the more that resources are funneled and controlled, the more that small businesses are not able to exist, the more you're going to be forced into these situations where you have to work together for this fucking reward, which is your paycheck. You have to allow different people who may not have your best interest at heart to then stand in your personal space. You have to allow them. What if you just want to go to work and you just want to work, but all they're talking about all day long is Kobe Bryant? And you don't fucking care about that. That's part of all of this stuff. That's the way billboards work. That's the way commercials work. That's the way songs are advertisements for cultures. It's a fucking commercial for different cultures, for different mindsets, for different archetypes and different behavior patterns. that then become this frequency that allows other people to tap into that and emulate it, to want to become that, or to take elements of it and add it to what they're doing, to then further perpetuate the spirit and the nature of whatever it might be. I'll tell you who's riding the feminist wave right now. A heap of prostitutes. Isn't prostitution illegal? Isn't prostitution a crime? However, they normalized it, right? So now prostitution is not a crime. You're a prostitute, you're a victim. Who's the perpetrator? The pimping. Whoever is the pimp. And then I don't really like too many pimps. Why? Because they're funny style, funny acting ass people. Those are stalkers. Those are people that will stalk your ass. They'll follow you. They'll go everywhere you go to try to see what the fuck you're doing, to try to be part of something. They always trying to talk this funny way, always trying to, there are certain personalities tied to even the realm of being a pimp. And that's the thing about shadow work. That's the thing about satanic magic. That's the thing about candle work. And now we're going to wrap up this video. You're dealing with certain levels of spirits. I don't care if you get up and go to work every day. I don't care if you go to church every day. If you're tied to certain minds, if you're tied to certain groupings, if you're tied to certain spirits, that shit is a part of you. And that is going to creep into everything you do. It's like that person that works at the grocery store and then they start stealing from the till. What is it that makes them to steal from the till? Is it the environmental issue? Probably not. It ain't as simple as that. However, this voice, this feeling, this intellect, this intelligence starts to creep into your thoughts and say, you could get away with it. Your predatory drives start to kick in. You low-key start to go back in time on some cave person shit. Your hunting instincts start to kick in. You start looking to see who's around, who might see you. Where are the cameras? All for what reason? So you could take a 20 out of the cash register. Could be that you're not a thief. Could be that you've never stolen anything. However, that thought invades your mind. So just do it. That's the reason to do it. You've never done this. See if you can get away with it. Then comes the next portion. Reward and punishment. If you get away with it, it's a reward. If you don't get away with it, and now you've taken a step further into that spirit. So yeah, I got a theft charge, right? Now that's who I am. Now it's much easier for me to do that. I have that label. Some people will say then, the first thing I ever stole was some money from my mama's purse. And now I'm the thief of all thieves. I've perfected the art of stealing. But what's tied to stealing? Lying, deceitfulness. So you're going to have to perfect, or you're going to have to incorporate elements of that. What's going to keep you safe in your lying and your stealing? Violence. So you're going to have to entertain that. until you become this well-rounded individual, right? That exudes certain personality traits, certain personality characteristics. Some people, they know this. Look, I'm going to give you some game right now. It's not always a prostitute that people should be worried about. Most people rightly believe that prostitutes are impressionable and weak. The person you should be worried about is the former prostitute, the woman who used to be a prostitute. That is a person with a skill set, with a bag of tools that could become a problem. The same thing with gang members. That is a skill set that could become a problem because you learn the psychology of a situation. You learn the spirituality of a situation. If you're intelligent, some people, they go through their entire criminal career or their entire career, whatever it might be, and they don't figure these things out. They don't come to these conclusions. They're not able to see the overlaps and the abstraction, and then in turn see how that becomes applicably effective. How those things become generational. How you start to accept certain behaviors and accept certain things and then push that influence onto other people. A person could say all day long, right? They have these talents, they have these gifts. However, what you don't want to do, you don't want to be on the internet doing tarot spreads, doing these different things, and then in turn use the word hustle or hustling. Another word for hustle is fraud. That's what those words mean. That's what the word means, usually. It's crime, fraud, right? If I hustle horses, if I'm a horse rustler, cattle rustler, right? Even hustling Hustler the magazine, that's some pimping. That's pimpish. That's a man who went into business taking advantage of the spirit of prostitution, the spirit of harlotry. Hugh Hefner did the same thing. He refined it. He said, this is the way we do business. I'm a gentleman of style and class, and here's my magazine. Look at these pretty fuzzy little things here. Who don't love them? Can then a person say that Hugh Hefner didn't belong to a certain classification of spirits? And then there are people who look up to that man. It's the same thing for Anton LaVey. It's the same thing for Aleister Crowley. What sciences are you using to then effectively mold your personality? What spirits are you inviting to the table, to your spiritual table, to your spiritual court? You can sit there and light hoodoo candles all day long. You can sit there and practice certain things all day, and you will notice the morphology in yourself. Tattoos everywhere, certain symbols, certain things. Then you can't then in turn say that those spirits are not part of what you're doing, or that you put it on your body. It's there. You can't say that these spirits, that these intelligences, these influences have nothing to do with anything, if those are the symbols that are on your person. It's the same with a gang, right? So I know personally, and there are plenty of other people who also know, right? But if you've ever been, there are plenty of people who don't know. So I'm going to explain it. If you or anyone you know has ever been on gang detail, you then know that they check your tattoos. They'll make you take off your shirt and take pictures of every emblem you put on your body. You could be violated for wearing certain colors. If you have certain like bandanas, right? Now I could have probably argued that shit. I could have said, look, man, this is religious. And I have freedom of religion. But no one has done that yet. That's why it's not an issue at this point. However, I could do it. I could argue it. I could say, that's my religion. They'll say, no, it's not. It's a gang. It's this thing. It's that thing. I say, bullshit. That's my family. Those are the spirits that are part of me and I'm part of them. This is my religious expression, the same as a person walks down the street with their rosary or with their beads. I wear this paisley bandana with these symbols on it. See, this represents spirits. This represents the symbol of the crossroads. I'll find one and show it to you. That's what's on that rag. This correlates to my ancestors, my spirits, right? I could do that. I could argue it. That's the same thing that happens in other mobs. That's the same thing that happens in other organizations. However, the issue is life and death, right? Criminal spirits and criminal enterprises as opposed to every other. Then you can start talking maritime law and vessels and traveling and governance. When you take those candles and you light them candles, you're inviting something to the situation. That's why you're casting the spell. So as long as my intention and I'll make it happen and I'm going to do it and it's me, all right, it is you. However, you're calling out to something. A candle is a lighthouse. It is a beacon. You're calling to something. You're burning those herbs because you're trying to entice certain spirits that are tied to certain colors, frequencies, smells, so on and so forth. And you're asking them to help you. Everyone who's involved in spiritual practice should know at this point that those ancient spirits, just like a vampire, are more powerful than the ones you just create yourself that have to then be empowered, kept alive through the memory. There's a movie, a Disney movie about that. It's pretty cool. I watched it. It's about music. I enjoyed it. I heard someone saying something, and I just want to correct this just for the people who are viewing. It could be that that audience and my audience are in no way, comparable, or they don't watch my programs and hers as well. However, I will say I watched this person and she said the most powerful form of magic is sex magic, and that's inaccurate. However, it's the second most powerful, so it's all good. I'm not mad at it. I'm not upset with that part of things. It doesn't bother me that she said that. I always have to be careful with the way that I say things because I am upset. Usually. The most powerful form of magic, or the most powerful types of magic, have to do with violence, then sex. Blood first, then semen and vaginal secretions. Candles are a whole nother thing. When you're lighting candles, you are asking for help. And if you're not specific about who you're asking for that help, you owe them. We keep hearing the words quid pro quo. It's quid pro quo, my dear Clarice. If you think all you have to do is light a candle and pray to the spirits, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, then you get what you want. If you in turn think that, oh, that was my grandma did that, or that was my great-grandfather did that, if you think in turn you don't owe whoever it was, I don't care if it was your grandmother, I don't care who it was, if you think you don't owe those spirits something for what they did, for using their energy, but you then believe the people owe you for using your energy, you have lost your mind. If you believe that you can just buy some stuff from the internet, light some candles, open portals, and you don't owe, it's not an exchange. You don't owe whatever spirits it was that did that for you that you couldn't do for yourself. You're bugging. That's why in certain traditions, in certain groups, they're cold hard on spirits. They're cold hard on ghosts. It's not a friendly relationship. Another example that I'd like to bring forward before closing this video is that there are sex magic orders, many of them greatly perverse. Think about that. So while we big up in the sex magic, we big up in some manifesting, right? You start dabbling in certain shit, and then in 10 years from now, you end up at the freak session and don't know what the fuck is going on. It's probably a better thing if you have been conditioned for that. And the spirit's probably getting you ready for it, because that's what you brought into your life. That's what you spoke into existence. It's like those people that want to sing rap songs but don't want to live in Compton. Those people that want, oh yeah, look, I could crip walk, but they don't want to be crips. They don't want to go through what you go through in that life. However, when you open the door to that, people will say, okay, they're interested. Let's see what I could do, right? It becomes this recruitment phase. It's the same as a door-to-door salesman. Everyone has a vacuum cleaner now, and I would like you to look at this vacuum cleaner. It's the Vacuum 5000. Are you sure you don't need a vacuum cleaner? Your floor looks dirty. Let me demonstrate. Let me show you how this works. You have to have one. Don't just get involved in things that you don't understand, or that you ain't going to take the time to try to learn. You ain't even going to try to find an elder. You're not even going to look for no spiritual big homies or nothing. You're just going to run out there like, yeah, spirits, demons, and all that shit. I'm not scared. You know what I'm saying? I ain't worried about it. Look at me. I'm not afraid. What are you getting involved in? Oh yeah, because see what had happened was we had started lighting candles, and then next thing you know, she just started gyrating, man. I don't know what happened. Fast forward 10 years down the line. Oh man, I cannot control this broad. She's fucking crazy. I don't know what happened. Some people, they don't understand that even the major religions, they're spiritual. Like, that's the weird thing I keep seeing. People trying to say spiritualism or spirituality is not religion. What the fuck are you talking about? That's the craziest thing. Well, not the craziest thing I ever heard, but that's up there. That's stupid. What? That's what religions are. They are spiritual societies at perpetual war. The issue for them is that most of them don't understand the way it works, because their elders are not breaking it down to them like that. Or when they reach that level, when they reach that point, it becomes difficult not to then take advantage of it. I saw this article on this internet where they said this African pastor, he was lining the women up in his congregation on the beach and eating their booties. Am I going to hate on that man? Nope. He is goating it up, ain't he? He should also know, though, that there are going to be people who are going to try to knock him off that hill. Could be because they want to do that very same thing. Or it could be because their daughter is up there, or their wife is at the booty eating ritual. But I saw that. That is a real thing. You can see also in Nigeria and in other places. I don't mean to just point out Nigeria, but you can see it in other situations, right? There are people who are having their congregations drink their piss. And they do it. They believe. And that's all right. How then do you know, though, whether or not you're dealing with a man of God or if you're dealing with a sorcerer? If you're dealing with someone who made that deal, signed on the dotted line, and is using those spirits for self-gratification as well as to continue to build the army, to build the legion that they belong to. That's like my good biker friends, right? They party, right? It's part of the culture. Something like them hotel parties, part of the culture. When you're lighting candles, you're calling to spirits. You don't even have this book. I don't need no damn book. I know what I'm doing. I don't need no damn elders. I don't need no instruction guide. I don't need no instruction manual. I'm just going to do this. So you're telling me when you light these candles, when you're doing what you're doing, you don't even have a simple prayer, like a prayer to distance negative spirits. But then you're going to light that candle. You're going to look at the herbs and materials that correspond to specific intellects, to specific conscious living thought, in effect, that can do all from a different realm. They could do all kinds of shit you can't do because you're tied to your body. And they are not. Well, they're tied to your body, right? But they can move around. They're not anchored to the body. And they can be anchored. However, you're going to call on these spirits. You're going to do this thing because you saw on Facebook that a group of people who could straight up be Satanists, right? There are churches of Satan like popular right now. This is not a problem, right? But you're going to do with a person that you don't even know what their background is. You don't know what other orders they are part of, whether they are OTO, Golden Dawn, whether they are members of the Temple of Set, whether they are just flat out Satanists and Archists. You don't know who the fuck they are. But you're going to accept their recipe. I'm having this problem. Give me a recipe. Without knowing what those herbs even correspond to, what you're calling. It could be the spirit that you're calling has nothing to do with your problem. It could be that those spirits are actually from a culture that forced your people into bondage, whether that is on some pimping or whether that is you're going to till this field because I said so, which is still some pimping. For whatever reason, you're going to call on this stuff because you don't need no guidance. You don't need no help. They say, yeah, that you see that dude over there, he's the fastest man in the world. He trained himself. He didn't need no help. I'm a dude like that. I'm a Hussein Bolt. But you're not Hussein Bolt. Plenty of people who coach gymnastics did not have a gymnastics career. You don't see them old men. They were never flexible. They were never gymnasts. How then do they coach that sport? How then do they teach that sport? Everything is not as simple as a learning experience. I went through it, I did it, so I can do it. For some people, yeah, all right. For other people, you know how many people fail at everything that there is to do? Don't always go as planned. It's important to know that spiritual warfare is real. It's important to know that shadow work is real. However, what is shadow work? You're dealing with spirits. You're dealing with intelligences. Some of them much tougher than you have ever thought yourself to be. Some of them much more vicious than you ever in your most pissed portion of your life could ever possibly be. That even bleeds over into sex. You go to some of these BDSM conventions, you go to some of these places where people are displaying what it is that they like to do through a particular will, through a particular chakra. I get tired of hearing people say chakra. I don't know what a chakra is. Go to those places and see what kind of morosities you run into. Like there are people that eat shit, right? There are people do, and it's part of their spiritual system. It's part of them. Look, for the people who do that, fecal philiacs and stuff like that, that's their business. But what I'm telling you is there are intelligences. There are what people consider to be demons. There are these forces that are directly involved in every aspect of it. And it could be that those are the spirits. If they say, hey, homie, I need help. They say, all right, you've eaten some shit. You've done things the way we do things. You are a member of the anarchist gang. You're part of the spirit of chaos and confusion. And we're going to help you. There are video games that explain that shit fairly well. I mean, eloquently, right? Skyrim is one of them, right? So if you want certain powers, you go run to the certain statue, and then you get the blessing, and then bam. Same thing. Just because it's a video game, just because it is art imitating life, you then don't believe that life also imitates art. Now, there are sweet people that roll around in boo-boo baths. They don't know why they do that. There are women who dress up and men, grown men who wear baby diapers and hang out in big ass cribs. I don't mean houses. I mean literal baby pen. There are people that do all kinds of things. And yet you cannot identify why it is that they do it. However, there's a word that most people in ATRs hear, but do not attach to this idea because they are not spiritually developed. And that word is fetish. Why then can you take a fetish item, a voodoo doll or whatever, and manipulate that and in turn manipulate a person? How would that work? Spirits, fetishes, behaviors, frequencies, and tapping into those. If you're going to join a gang, you're going to have to do what the gang does. There's a uniform, a dress code, a speech pattern, everything. If you work at Burger King, you got a uniform that identifies you as a member of the Burger King squad. You might not even be proud of that outfit. You don't want people to see you wearing your Burger King fit. I don't want the people to see me wearing that Burger King shirt. It don't go with this shirt. We're discussing shadow work right now. We're discussing that part of things that people don't want other people to understand or to know about them, that is there. We don't want them to know about that abstract form that is dense and is just as real as this body. And that light causes this chain reaction that makes this stuff apparent or observable. Shine some light on the situation, right? There are people, look, I don't have to hide certain things. There's no need for me to do it. In fact, the more that I try to hide certain things, the more that certain people will probably be able to point things out. However, we live in a society that is dealing with perpetual warfare. There are women at war against men. However, they love men. The same as there are men that are dominating women. However, they still love them. You can love something so much you fucking, it becomes a possession. You become possessed. There are people that have cars, and if the repo man comes to take that car, they'll go out there, bust all the windows, scratch all the fucking paint. Like you're just gonna try to take my car and resell it. You're just gonna try to make me pay more than I already owe for stealing my car and holding it over here. I'll destroy that motherfucker before I remain tied to this situation that allows you to get up every single day and it's your job to worry about where I'm going and what I'm doing, how I get there, how much my car is worth, how much I paid on it. There are people who have those jobs. How many people like tow truck drivers? Not that many. There are people who have that job. Their job is to go and steal people's shit from them, steal people's vehicles from them, to repossess them. Then there are people who say, well, they can't do that if they don't own it. And that's the way this system works. Some of those predatory lenders know you're not going to be able to repay that shit. Some of these people in these governments will create conditions to where you can't repay that shit. If you can't control who lives next door to you, which most people can't. If I own an apartment building, but I'm a Jehovah's Witness, but I have to make my money, so I let low income people in there because that's who I take advantage of. However, I still don't like you and I don't agree with your lifestyle. Why then would I not be able to give a couple apartments to people that I know? People who represent what I want them to, yeah, just watch them. Anything they do, tell me. Call the cops. Do this, do that. Right there in the same building. I've seen that. I'm not pointing out certain people just because. I've been through that. There was a place where I was getting in a car and this man who happened to be a Jehovah's Witness ran up on me and told me, what was I doing? Why was I driving the car? And did the person know that I was in the car? And then he said he was going to tell her. Like, I'm going to tell her. And what? Told him, who are you? I'm the manager. I'm the manager. What? It just so happened that this person told me that that dude was also, he had keys to our apartment. So the manager in that building was going into her apartment and going through her underwear and folding it, probably sniffing it too or whatever, but folding her underwear and putting it in different places. And there was nothing she could do about it. That's what happens when your livelihood is in the hands of another person. That's what happens when you're dealing with someone. You might not want to end up in the street. You might not want to have to go through all this messed up stuff that could end up happening if you stand up for the fact that some weird person is folding your chonies. It's a predatory society. I'm going to close this recording. We covered everything. Candle work, shadow work, and satanic magic. Now, I hope this wasn't a situation where people thought that I was going to sit here and tell people how to do certain things. You got to come to my church. You got to give me donations. You got to put something in the collection plate. I hope this wasn't one of those situations where people thought I was going to go into the specifics about shadow work or about satanic magic or about candle work beyond what I've already brought forward. I'll tell you how you know you're dealing with a person who's not initiated. They'll tell you how to do things for nothing. Clear indicator. Why would that be something that let me know that very clearly? Because most of the people who are part of certain orders and part of certain systems, they had to pay, or they had to pay dues, or they had to receive certain initiations. And during those initiations, they're sworn to secrecy, they're sworn to silence, They're sworn not to tell people how to do certain things. Now, the issue is we have these revealers, we have these book writers and things like this. However, they don't explain it. That material is then helpful to the people who know what to do with it. Now, I know what to do with this stuff. Everyone's not built for it. There are people, if they ask me, could you show me how to do these things, or could you teach me how to do certain things? I would tell them no. Not because I'm trying to be messed up to them. Maybe I'm trying to that's my way of trying to save them. Maybe that's what I could do. I could say this ain't for you. Like, you don't want to be like this, little dude. You don't want to go through this. Leave this to the big dogs. So I want to be a big dog too. No, that's the messed up thing. Eventually it loops back around, right? If you don't take advantage of a situation, or if you don't allow people to follow you, those followers will in turn follow someone else and be open to their influence, to their guidance, which could be worse for them than if you just said, all right. However, I believe in families. I believe that your squad, your spiritual squad, your family, the people that you dedicate yourself to, that deserve that, should always, they're important. Now, I also believe that people that reveal certain characteristics about themselves, I'm one of them people where if you go against me, you did that. Everyone wants to be the leader these days. It's like eventually you want to go against, you want to tell your parent, you want to go against your parent, I'm not a kid anymore. Just because everyone else does it, right? What if you had a good parent? How about those of us that didn't? You can see the brainwashing and everything. You can see little kids being brainwashed by single mothers. You can see little kids, then they in turn get paid to let other people have influence and to brainwash them further. Oh, because you didn't stay with me, you didn't take care of this. It's weird. Then you got shows like Love and Hip Hop that reinforce that bullshit. As an example, I'm not going out of my way to point them out particularly. That's just an example. So go ahead and check out the Facebook timeline. Have a look. I posted a few things there that definitely correlate to what's in these videos. There is a spirit of prostitution. There are spirits of harlotry. There are divisions based on such. I've already showed it. There are criminal elements. I've already showed that. They're tied to graveyard spirits. So be very careful with them ancestors. Be very careful with them graveyards. Right? It's not something that I recommend that just the layman's person or the average person just dives into, especially at the beginning of their spiritual journey or the beginning of them dealing with these sorts of things. I would definitely not recommend that they dive headfirst into the graveyard trying to figure shit out. You might want to go to the forest first. You might want to go to the beach or to the lake, or you might want to climb a mountain or some shit like that before you dive headlong into the fucking graveyard. Because there are elements there waiting, and you may not know what to do with them. You may not know how to deal with it. You might not be ready for that ghost ship. You might not be ready for that pirate vessel. Now, if you are, congratulations. That means you might be down to dance dirty and do dirty things with dirty people. Dirt everywhere in the graveyard. Don't tell nobody I told you that. Right? However, know that these spirits, everything don't get along with everything else. Right? A fire spirit and a water spirit, it's tough to keep them in the same place. That has something to do with astrology, right? That has something to do with the zodiac. This stuff is very scientific, spiritually applicable, and scientific. It's not a saying, oh, it's a fire sign and it's a water sign, and it ain't as simple as that. There are water signs that are fire worshipers. Then there is your fire water. You get your alcohol in a bottle. It is alchemical. You're inviting spirits to move through your vessel. Can you control them? Or do they control you? Some of these women out here, right? They get so drunk, they just piss on themselves, right? And then there are some women who that's just what they like to do. They like to pee. These are the things that you don't want to talk about. You don't want to discuss this stuff because it's way too real, right? This is stuff that becomes difficult for any person to discuss. I mean, can you imagine being in a sex education class and asking your teacher why some people piss on purpose? What is the sexual nature of it? That will fuck the whole class up. It is what it is. It's spiritual. It's tied to animals and elements. I can explain it thoroughly. Are these things you really want to know? Are you in touch with these spirits? Are those spirits a part of you and have you embraced them? Or are you being clawed at? Are you being destroyed because you're denying something? These are important questions and they have answers. So I want to thank everybody who stopped in for however long. I do get that watching an entire 2-hour video or a video that is an hour and a half, especially in today's society, if you can get someone to do that, you are on to something. However, anyone who stopped in even just for a moment, I appreciate you. Much love. You can feel free to, as I've told you before, ask questions. Sometimes I feel like not asking questions is a sign of something too. That's how you know you're dealing with someone who is doing a great job as far as teaching is concerned. I've dealt with people like that where they just sit there. They don't know what to say. And it's because sometimes you feel like it's because people aren't paying attention. However, sometimes people are so engrossed with what it is that you're bringing forward, they just become entranced. They're listening to every word. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They're just listening. I'm going to give it up to Portia because she definitely tends to look in on what it is that's being brought forward. I respect and appreciate that. It tends to be how I know that there are certain people that, you know, they take certain things very seriously. I respect that. I appreciate that. Facebook is not the place for certain things. I mean, if you know that Facebook isn't the place to tell everyone you robbed the fucking Burger King or something like this, this probably isn't the place for you to tell people that you do certain things or that you're involved in certain communities or that you're involved in certain craft. It's probably not the place for you to do tarot schemes or some shit like this and then expect that Facebook ain't cataloging it or that you might not get put on some fucking list, right? Or that even the tax collector might not say, hey, what's up with that money, right? Whatever it might be. People just need to be very careful. Correspondence is still a real thing. Pencils are still an invention that work. Very soon, I'm going to make an email address available for people who want to reach out, communicate. Even if that's as simple as discussions, very soon I've already led plenty of groups. However, very soon I'm going to be focusing on certain groups that I'm working on. it's a selective issue, so it's not one of those situations where any person who pushes the, join this group button is going to get into that group. That's not the way that I do things. I tend to want to put together groups that could turn into, friendships or relationships that last a long time, right? If, student teacher situations or spiritual situations that then in turn are just as valuable as going to a college or joining a fraternity, where you will know these people and then you in turn, can practice or can have discussions, or, just know that you're part of something where this isn't just a novelty, or that this isn't just a group where these people are pretending to be interested in something, or whether they're pretending to do certain things, or, just trying to make money. I'm very good at every aspect of reading. And especially, I'm telling you, this is what FBI profilers do. Their job is very spiritual. So it's a situation where you can definitely, believe that the groups that I put together and the things that I do, they serve a purpose. They're real, they're not fake, they're not me, sitting here reading a bunch of books and then just simply regurgitating that stuff. These things they just reinforce the points. So I know this stuff. In fact, there are people who have watched me go through certain periods in life where I have explained everything that they've written in every one of these books without ever reading any one of them. And then I open these books and it's exactly what I said, exactly the way that I explained it. And that's profound. And for me, the way that I made the attempt to rationalize it was like, I got this power, right, where I can just touch the book and I know what's in it. However, it goes beyond that. And those are things that I care not to bring forward. There's no need for me to do that because most people aren't ready for that. Or also another thing is you have a lot of people who absolutely are Christians and they're getting involved in spiritual communities on some spy shit, on some spiritual warfare type situations. The stuff is getting beyond super dangerous. You see what I'm saying? Here's another book. This one is called Atlantis Insights from a Lost Civilization. I recommend this book. It's a very good book. It's something that I'm going to open up and read a couple of paragraphs from here soon, as well as this book, The Riddle of the Dinosaur. Some people will feel like those two books don't go together. However, they absolutely do. The reason would be Quetzalcoatl and chickens and snakes. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I don't know what to tell you about it. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll probably get back on here sometime later and further expound and clarify a couple of things, or expound upon and clarify a couple of things. Here's another thing right here. It's called Kindred Spirits. All right. And some of these people that are talking divine masculine, divine feminine, manifesting, all of these kinds of things, they either are just trolling online or they are surfing the net. Some of them actually open a few books. Some of them actually have talents. Some of them are lost. Some of them are trying to prove themselves and waiting for people to come out of the woodwork. Either way, I hope you get better at what you do. Even if it's stealing for people, even if it's fraud, I mean, shit, get better at it. Right? I'm not hating on you. I get how this stuff works. However, that doesn't mean that I agree with or approve of what's happening there. And then as I build my army, as those spirits that may be coot and may not be coot align themselves with me, just know that I suppose that's what people are waiting for. They're waiting for me to compete. And I have been going out of my way not to do that. However, I could put together a nice little squad of my own and start coming for some of that money that you people are taking advantage of. Right? It's a free for all. I'm going to read from this and then I'm going to close this video. It says, we cannot tell the precise moment when friendship is formed, as in filling a vessel drop by drop. There is at last a drop which makes it run over. So in a series of kindnesses, there is at last one which makes the heart run over. That's Samuel Johnson. Right. Now here's the crazy thing about that. Isn't that what I just now said? 100% from a book called Kindred Spirits. So, yeah, so you know, this book ain't marked. It's in a sleeve here. All I did was open it, and I told you that's what I do. Enjoy the rest of your day until episode, what is it, 10, which will probably be sometime tonight. I cannot promise that. However, just stay tuned. I'll go live. It'll probably be sometime this evening. Not going to say I enjoy doing this. However, it is something that I have to do. I'm working on some things. So I'm excited to be doing this stuff. All right. That is what that is. Enjoy the rest of your day. Try to have a pleasant day. Try to stay in control of those spirits. And know that shadow work is tough. Know that shadow work is influential. The same as light work. It's influential. The people who don't like light workers tend to be people that are, I don't know how would I say it, in line with shadows, common sense, and vice versa. Enjoy your day.